So before I married my husband in November of 2011, probably midsummer, I think, I went to the doctor and I had a woman's exam because I wanted to make sure going into a marriage that I knew what was going on with me and that everything was okay and that, everything checked out. And in the exam initially, the doctor was like, everything's cool, everything looks good, everything's fine. And so I started talking to the doctor about my female history, and she asked me all the questions that, doctors ask, how regular are you? What, is it light, is it heavy? All those kind of questions. Well, as we started talking in depth, she said, you need to go to the hospital and you need to get an ultrasound. And that's it. She just wrote up the order and shoved me out the door and said, be there at 1:30. Well, she didn't really explain why. And so, as an 18-year-old girl, I was kind of like, okay, that's interesting. Like, what am I supposed to do with this information? So I went and I got the ultrasound. And what the ultrasound revealed was inconclusive. I mean, the ultrasound tech couldn't tell me anything. When the results came back, it really didn't say much of anything, other than it did confirm what she thought, that I had cysts on my ovaries. And I at that point had heard about PCOS, and so I had looked up some of the symptoms, and I thought, duh, that's what's been wrong all this time. I have this. I have PCOS. And so I approached the subject with my doctor, and she kind of shrugged me off like, oh, whatever, that's not what it is. You would have this, 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 and this if that was the case, and no, that's not right, you're wrong. So I assumed she knew better, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I don't. Well, then I got married, and then, the holidays hit, and all these big events, church events the next spring, and Easter, and all that, and I had noticed some changes physically, and I was like, okay, well, something's going on here. And I, of course, knew that, when you get pregnant, your body changes, you'll notice things are different or achy or whatever. And I had noticed those things about myself, but I also read that that's PMS symptoms, so I thought maybe my symptoms are just changing a little bit. And going into May of 2012, I was very moody, and I was craving weird things. Like, I had to have a sweet raspberry tea from Sonic and a corn dog every day. Like, I craved it so bad that it was like if I didn't get it, I was just like, I was out of sorts until I could get it. So that was weird. That was really weird for me to, I joke about being addicted or whatever to Sonic drinks, but it was like, it was an intense craving. So anyway, that was May of 2012. May 6th, 2012 was a day that I will absolutely never forget. And I was at church all day. It was a Sunday. And I just felt good. It was one of those days where you feel like, you're walking around chest puffed out, sun is shining, like it's a beautiful day, and it's just a good day. Well, we left church that night, and on the way home, I started to ache, and I started to cramp, and I thought, I'm not supposed to have a period yet, am I? But then I started thinking about it, and I was like, it's been a while since I had one, so maybe it's just really bad this time. So my husband asked me if I was okay, and I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm just, I'm hurting. And so we got home, and we got ready for bed, and we were going to bed, and I said, I'm going to take some medicine. I'm hurting pretty bad, which, if you know me personally, I don't like to take pills. And so I took some, I think it was Tylenol or ibuprofen. I don't remember which. I think it was ibuprofen. I took some ibuprofen, and I laid down, and I noticed that they were getting more and more and more intense and closer together. And so that was weird to me because, like, with cramps, they hurt, but it's not like they don't get like closer together. It just hurts. And so these started to get closer and closer together. And it was finally to the point where it's constant. It was a constant pain. And I was laying there in bed, and I remember pulling my legs up to my chest, and I just hurt so bad. And then it was weird. I had like this weight just hit me, and like this wave of grief just came over me, and I just started crying, and I was almost hysterical, and I didn't know what was wrong, and I just felt this emptiness hit all of a sudden, and it was just weird. And so then after I noticed the cramping got super, super intense, and then I felt like I needed to go to the bathroom. So in our little bitty house at the time, you just open the bedroom door and you're basically right there at the bathroom. It was a little 1 bedroom, 1 bath place. And so I went in the bathroom, and I barely sat down, and I felt this gush, and everything just left my body at that point. And I knew then, because I kept it in the back of my head that pregnancy was a possibility, but I took pregnancy tests and they were negative, so I didn't think anything about it. And so when that happened, first of all, I was in shock, because I had heard of it happening and how it happened, and read stuff, but it was just so intense. And so I realized what happened, and I just broke down. I just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed, and so I sat there a little bit longer, let some more things pass, and I just fell. After I got myself cleaned up, I just fell onto the floor, and I just cried. I just cried. I knew what just happened. My chest got really, really sore and heavy feeling all of a sudden. And it was like this voice in the back of my head that told me, you just lost a baby. And it was the worst day of my life at that point. And I remember thinking, really? This had to happen? Why did this happen to me? I've been so good. I've never done anything wrong. I've never hurt anybody. I've never, I've been faithful to my church. I've been faithful, to give financially to my church and my time. And this isn't fair. I'm too young for this. Why is this happening right now? And my mind was just all over the place, and I couldn't understand why God would allow that to happen. And over the next couple of weeks, I got into such a dark place, mentally, and not so much spiritually, but mentally, I was in a very dark place, and I questioned so much at that point. Why was the biggest question. It didn't make sense. It wasn't fair to me, that had to happen. And that was actually a week before Mother's Day that year. And I was the one in charge of putting together the Mother's Day presentation for our church. And I remember when the Mother's Day presentation started to play in the sanctuary, I literally ran off the platform. And I went down into a classroom, and I shut the door, and I cried. I just cried and cried and cried and cried and cried. And I couldn't stop. First of all, my hormones were still all over the place, but I was just so defeated. And I didn't understand at that point what was going on. And so I went back to the doctor, and we talked about everything again. And she told me that I was too young to even know what a miscarriage was like. And she basically laughed me off. Needless to say, that experience with the doctor just left me frustrated, and it left me aggravated that she wouldn't take my word for it. So I tried to keep up a healthy diet, tried to stay fairly active. After that, of course, again, I had done my own research and knew what PCOS was and kind of how to combat it a little bit at that point. And so that was in 2012. And in fast forward to 2013. It was December 2013. I was like, I'm going to take a bubble bath. I want to take a bubble bath. So I took a bath, and as I was sitting there, I noticed some cramping had started. And again, my cycle is so irregular that I never knew when I was going to start and when I wasn't. And so, I might get emotional with this. So I was in the bathtub, and I cramped a little bit, and sorry. And I looked down because I noticed there was something in the water that looked weird, like a little floating orb basically in the water. And I was like, what is that? And so I looked, and I don't know if when you were a kid, I don't know if you ever tried to catch anything in the bathtub, but it's really hard when something's in water to try to like catch it. So it took me a few minutes to scoop up this little thing that I saw floating in the water, and I scooped it up in my hand, and all the water ran away, and all that was left was this clear, probably about the size of a quarter, this clear fluid-filled sack with this little shrimp-looking thing inside of it. And I looked at it and I thought, no, there's no way. Like, that doesn't happen. There's no way. And so I didn't know what else to do, so I just kind of set it on the side of the bathtub and hurried and, finished. And I don't know why I thought to do this, but when I got out of the bathtub, my phone was laying there, and so I took a picture of what it was. I took a picture of it because I wanted to show my mom and see what she thought it was. And when I did that, and I looked at it again, it hit me. That's a baby. And I knew right then that that's what it was. And so I didn't want to let myself believe that. I thought maybe it was just a cyst. Maybe it was an ovarian cyst. As I've heard of people, passing those, not in the bathtub, but I've heard of them passing cysts. And so the next day I talked to my mom about it, and I showed her the picture. And when I showed her the picture, her face just fell. And she looked so sad. But she quickly tried to cover it up because she didn't want me to see how upset that she obviously was. And so we started trying to reason it out, and we were trying to figure out what it was, and then she kind of started asking me about dates and times, and if this happened then and whatever, and if I noticed anything different. And so when we put two and two together, and like I said, I knew exactly what it was. I didn't want it to know that that's what it was, because then my body would have failed me for a second time, and I couldn't imagine. I mean, I was only 20 years old. There's no way that, my body could do that to me again. And so I went home and I thought about it, and I told my husband. And he was really understanding through the first miscarriage, and through then, like, he understood what I was telling him, but I don't really think it fully hit him, and it wasn't as personal to him, which, in fairness, ladies, it really isn't going to be as personal to them because they don't feel that pain. They don't feel that loss. They don't literally feel the death inside of them that we do. And so it was hard for him to be as emotional about it as I was, or I thought that he should be, or whatever. And it really, really affected me that time. And I was devastated. I was so devastated. I couldn't believe that it had happened again for a second time. So I was talking to a friend of mine one day, and she also has PCOS, and she was telling me about this doctor that she goes to. And I thought, maybe I need to go see him. Maybe I just need to make an appointment. And I was so nervous about it for some reason, and I don't really understand why. I think it was because I was scared that he was going to tell me that I couldn't have kids. And that was my biggest fear when I got married. I wanted to be able to have kids. I wanted nothing more than to be a mom. And so whenever I got the information from her about the doctor, I just laid it around. It just sat around. And I don't remember what happened to that paper. And then I asked her again, probably a couple months later, I asked her again for the information, and she gave it to me. And I called right then. I just called. I was tired of feeling so bad, and I called, and I asked if they accepted my insurance, and they said yes. And I said, I need to make an appointment. And the lady said, okay, what for? And I said, I want to have a baby. And she said, well, okay, come in this day. The doctor will evaluate you. We'll see what's going on, all that kind of stuff. Well, of course, you fill out the questionnaire when you get there, and you fill out all that information. And so I put that I had 2 losses. And that was, I guess, that was pretty hard to put that down on paper. Because, you live with it every day, but to write down, I've lost 2 pregnancies. I don't know, it just made it more real. So I went back and I talked to the nurse, and I talked about everything that I had been experiencing, what I was going through, all that kind of stuff. And so when the doctor came in, I talked to him, and he said, I think you have PCOS. And I said, well, I talked about that before with my other doctor, and we think that, we thought that was a possibility. And he said, okay. And so he wrote it down. He said, I see here you put down that you've had 2 miscarriages. And I said, yes, I have. And he said, do you know about how far along you were with each? And I said, well, I think for the first one I was about 6 weeks. And then the second one, I think I was about 8 weeks. And then I said, but my pregnancy test never read positive. And he stopped and he looked at me and he said, really? And I said, yeah, I felt pregnant and I knew that I was pregnant, but they never, the test itself never said positive. And he said, okay, well, I want you to go down to this office, go get your blood drawn. We're going to do a full hormone panel. We're going to check every level. And I'm going to send you into this room real quick for an ultrasound. And I said, oh, okay, whatever you say, doc, okay. So I went down and they did the ultrasound tech was busy with another patient. And so they went and they did the hormone panel. There was like 6 or 8 vials of blood. It was a lot. And so then I went back and I did the ultrasound. And whenever they looked at my ovaries, it was like looking at Swiss cheese. There were so many spots. So there were so many cysts. I was kind of overwhelmed, actually. And the ultrasound tech said, what are they looking for? Did they tell you? And I said, well, the doctor said he thinks I've, PCOS. And she kind of laughed and said, no, honey, you certainly have PCOS. And so I said, okay. And so she told me, this is the last thing the doctor had for you to do today. You need to go and schedule another appointment to come back for the results. And I said, all right, that's cool, that's fine. So I went and I scheduled my second appointment, my follow-up appointment. And So when I came back, he came in the room and he said, okay, so we got your blood results back. And he showed me on the screen what they were and what they were supposed to be and all that kind of stuff. And I said, okay, so what does this mean? And he said, you are the poster child for PCOS. And I kind of looked at him and I said, is that a good thing? Like, am I supposed to be happy about that? Because I don't really know. And he said, well, no, it's not really a good thing. And I said, okay, so what does this mean exactly? And his whole mood changed. And I was sitting there in a little thin paper gown kind of thing. And it was freezing cold, as it always is in doctor's offices. And he said, well, your body does not produce progesterone, which progesterone is essential for a pregnancy. You have to have progesterone in order for the baby to grow. And so he said, so before you said you lost that first one at 6 weeks and by your dates. And I said, yeah. And he said, okay, and you never had a positive test. And I said, no. And so then he said in the second one, you said it was around 8-ish weeks. I said, well, the picture I compared my picture to pictures I saw on the internet, basically, of an 8-week baby, fetus. And I compared them side by side, and that's about probably 7-8 weeks is where I would have been. And he said, okay, well, based on your hormone levels and what I know and what I've experienced and what I've seen, the reason why you're not testing positive on a pregnancy test is because that progesterone, that hormone, is not high enough. It's not there enough to register with the rest of your hormones. That's what's going on. So you can get pregnant, but you can't stay pregnant. And so when he said that, I kind of thought, oh, okay. So I said, so what does that mean exactly? What are you trying to say? And he got really somber. And he said, well, what that means is without a miracle and without divine intervention, it's probably not going to happen for you. And I just kind of looked at him like, are you kidding me? Like, is this a joke? Because if it is, it's a really cruel joke. And I said, excuse me? And he said, short of a miracle or divine intervention from God, even with medication, even with trying to correct all of this, I don't see the possibility of you being a mother. And my whole world just stopped. And I sat there in stunned silence, like I couldn't process what he just said. And he said, so now I have some options. And he started, his whole spiel on what we could do next and where to go from there. And honestly, I probably heard 2 words of it. I was so devastated. I just wanted to run and hide and curl up in a ball and just cry. Because when you hear those words, when you read them on a page, it's, you won't be a mother. Okay, I mean, it's not real until the doctor who knows all this stuff has his chart in front of him and he's showing you exactly why you won't be a mom. And when you see that, it just changes you. And it's hard to explain how unless you've been there, unless you've experienced it. And I left that appointment feeling so lost and so defeated, and knowing that I had to go home and I had to tell my husband that the one thing that I wanted to do more than anything, which was to give him a family, I couldn't do. It was hard. It was really hard. But he was so supportive and sweet, and he started looking up stuff about PCOS and infertility and all that kind of stuff. So we had talked to the doctor about what to do next, and he said, well, I know it sounds backwards, but I need you to go on birth control for at least 6 months. And then I want you on metformin, which I had to do a glucose test and all that after that to see what my blood sugar was doing, and it was just barely high enough to where he wanted me to be on glucophage or metformin. And so I started metformin and my birth control for 6 months, and then he said, when you come back after 6 months, we'll decide if you want to stop the birth control or not. So I said, okay. So we stopped it for a little bit. Well, I think I took it. I think that's what it was. I took it for about 4 months, and then I stopped to see if I could get pregnant on my own. And then I went back on it for a couple months. Then I went back to him and said, okay, I want to stop. And so he upped my metformin, because I guess the way that it works is it also helps your body super ovulate. Metformin does. And so I was on like 1,500 milligrams of metformin a day. And so that's what I was taking that. I stopped my birth control completely. And I had read on Pinterest about this oil, this essential oil from Young Living called Progessence Plus. And I had read that it was really good for PCOS. And so I was going to get some, and I was talking to a lady that I knew about it. And she was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Well, she actually ended up ordering it for me, and she gifted it to me. And I was just in shock, because it was a pretty expensive oil. And so she gave it to me. So then I started, I think it was September or October. I can't remember which. September, October of 2014. I was using it twice a day. I think twice a day. Once in the morning, once at night. While taking my metformin and just seeing what happened. And yeah, I think it was September. So September passed. I had my cycle, period, just like normal. And then October came, and same thing. I had a cycle just like normal. Then November came, and I had a cycle just like normal. And then 2 weeks later, I had another like mini kind of cycle. It was weird. It was different from my normal cycle, but it was still there. And so I thought that was odd. And then, so then December came, and December of 2014, and I was still taking my metformin and my, using that oil every day. And the doctor told me that if at the end of that year, that using the gentle method, which was the birth control and the metformin regimen, using the gentle method, if that did not work and I did not get pregnant from that alone, then the next step had to then be Clomid, which we had done our own personal research, and to each their own, honestly. We had done our own personal research. I had family members that had taken Clomid. I had close personal friends that had taken Clomid. And my husband and I had come to the decision that we did not want to do that. We did not want to do the Clomid route. Just because it's so harsh on your body. We didn't want to do that. And so we were going to have to then explore other options at that point. And so December was really the make it or break it. Like if it didn't happen in December, then we didn't know what was going to happen next. So December came, and it was actually after a church event. We were cleaning up afterwards, and I was so moody. I was just like, oh my word, I was a bear to be around. I'll be honest. I was horrible. And so one minute I would be fine and laughing and joking, and the next minute I was just a grouch. I was a total grouch. And so we finished doing what we were doing then, and we went home. And that night, I noticed I was just feeling just run down, I guess. But we'd been so busy that it made sense. So the next morning, it was a Sunday, and I woke up bright and early for church. It was like 7:30 in the morning, and I woke up mad, like mad, just straight up out of bed, mad. And my poor husband, I was so mean to him. I was just rah, 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 yelling at him all morning. And he was getting so frustrated. So he goes, "You need to go take a pregnancy test. You are being you're just mean." And of course, at that point, I had taken 19 pregnancy tests over the span of, 2 or 3 years. And so when he said that, it like really, really, really upset me. Like I was already upset, but that just like sent me over the edge. I was so angry. I could not believe that he would say that to me, knowing what we had gone through. So I went to the bathroom and I took the test, and I didn't even look at it. I took it and I kind of glanced at it. There was only one line, so I set it down in frustration, and I just walked away from it. Because I knew it was just going to be negative. And I was so, like, y'all, I really don't think I can accurately explain exactly how moody I was. So I'm washing my hands, and something just tells me, you need to pick up the test. And so I pick it up, and I honestly wasn't even going to look at it again because I knew it was going to be negative. Like I just knew. So I'm literally reaching down to put it in the trash can. I can't even see the window on it because I had it turned over. And I'm going to put it in the trash can, and something said, "Look at it." So I turned it over, and like seriously, major eye rolling was going on. And I look at it, and I saw 2 lines. And my stomach just like hit the floor. I couldn't believe that there was 2 lines. And so I looked at it, and I'm just like trembling at this point. I'm just shaking. And it was strong. 2 strong pink lines. And I just bawled. I sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. That was the first time. That was my 20th pregnancy test to take. And it was the first time I'd ever seen a positive. And I knew what that meant. I knew that meant that my hormones were right, and my hormones were doing what they were supposed to do. And so I went out into the little hall of our teeny tiny little house, and I told him, he was laying on the couch, and I said, "It's positive." And he like jumped up off the couch, and he said, Are you serious? "No, it's not. No, it's not." And I said, "Yes, it is. Come look." And he came and he looked, and we both just broke down, and we cried and we cried and we cried and we cried. Like I just stood there holding him and holding the test in the other hand and just cried. And I could not believe that it was positive. And that little fear came, that little spirit of fear hit me. And for a brief second, I thought, don't get too excited. Don't get excited, because you're going to lose this one just like you lost the other 2. But I brushed it off because I knew that I had prayed, and I felt that God had told me that we were going to have a baby, and it was going to be a girl. I just knew, and I already knew her name. And so we told his parents, we told my mom, we surprised my dad on Christmas Eve. We told them, and they were so excited with us. And like there were so many people that had prayed for us and prayed over us and with us during this whole journey. And it impacted them just as much as it impacted us, because they knew that they witnessed a miracle. And going back and looking at all of the dates that, things happened, and comparing with, what the doctor said and what I know to be true and all of that kind of stuff, it really honestly had to be a miracle. It had to be a miracle. And so my doctor, we actually had planned a family vacation to Disney World at the end of December, the week after Christmas, and I was scared to death that something was going to happen, because it was like a 20-hour drive from where we live to Orlando. and nothing happened. Everything was great. We had a great trip. I didn't have any sickness or anything until after we got back. And we went to that first doctor's appointment, and they did the ultrasound, and we saw the baby, and we heard the heartbeat, and we got the picture, the ultrasound, and I had them look at my ovaries because I wanted to see what they looked like. And there was not a single cyst. I mean, they were just the most perfect looking ovaries you've ever ever seen. And I knew, like, it just sent chills up and down my spine because I knew that it was a God thing that that I had gotten pregnant. And so I had a pretty textbook pregnancy. I was sick as a dog. I was so sick. I lost like 30 plus pounds from being so sick during my pregnancy. I never had any issues as far as bleeding or anything like that through the pregnancy. No swelling, no high blood pressure. My glucose test was perfect. Everything was just perfect. And then the little stinker was late by 10 days. She came late, and I was in labor for 42 hours. Yes, that's right, 42 hours. And 2 hours of pushing, actually 2 hours and 19 minutes, almost exactly, of pushing to get her here. And when she was born, I mean, it was just amazing. The doctors were amazed. We were amazed. We were in awe that this perfect little girl had arrived. And she is our world. She's a mess. She's so stubborn. She's sassy beyond all belief. But really and honestly, God could not have blessed us with a more perfect child for us. I mean, she's everything that we dreamed of, literally. And we're so blessed to be able to be a mom and a dad to our little bee, our little baby. So that's where I have been, and that's my story, and that's my journey. So where I'm at now is I have, since having my daughter, through nursing her and everything for the first 6 months of her life, I noticed that all my hormones were still perfect, that I was maintaining, the weight that I had lost down to. I was maintaining that after I had her. And so I really, in my heart, believed that I had been healed again, that everything was good and perfect and all of that. And then I noticed slowly that I started to have more pain, and my symptoms came back, and they came back worse, and the pain was back, and the frustration of things was back. And I'm being totally transparent, totally honest. I haven't been taking any medication like I really know I need to. I haven't been taking the supplements like I know I need to. I haven't been dieting per se like I know I need to. I have been trying to be careful with what I eat, but I also have eaten a lot of sweets and just stuff that I probably shouldn't. I haven't been exercising like I need to. I know for sure. So I'm now the heaviest weight I've ever been in my life, ever, including being pregnant. And so now I am pretty much starting this journey all over, only now I know what to do, and I have the tools to get healthy again. And so I won't be, it won't be a shot in the dark this time to get back to where I need to be. So I am excited to be on this journey with all of you this time, and to share my little bits of knowledge that I do have, and my experiences that I have been through with you. And I know that there have been several people on YouTube that I've followed that have PCOS, and it's encouraged me to see that there are other people out there that are, in the same battle that I am. And so my goal for 2017 is to get into shape, get healthy, try to get some of this weight off. And you know what? Honestly, if it comes off, that is obviously incredible. But if it doesn't come off, my goal for 2017 is to learn to be comfortable in my own skin. I want to be healthy. I want to be active. I want to be a good role model for my daughter. But more importantly, as far as the physical aspect goes, I want to be mentally and emotionally a role model for my daughter. I want her to look at me and see a confident and happy mom. I don't want her to look at me and see a mom that's constantly negative about her appearance, that's negative about, her clothing or, the way things fit or whatever. I want to be comfortable in my own skin for her, regardless of what happens. So I'm excited. I hope that maybe a little bit of my story could help you, maybe. And something I wanted to leave you with is, if you are going through this journey yourself, if you're struggling with infertility or if you're struggling with PCOS, you're not alone. I know that was some of my first feelings, was that I was the only person who'd ever been through this ever. PCOS is common. It's very common. I think I read somewhere that 1 in 10 women have PCOS. And unfortunately, miscarriage is common. 1 in 4 women have experienced a miscarriage, and 1 in 8 couples have been diagnosed with infertility. And, those are staggering. The numbers are staggering. They really are. But if that's you, if you're one of those in those groupings of 10, 8, or even 4, I'm here for you. I'm here with you. I've experienced those highs. I've experienced those lows. I know how you're feeling. So don't let yourself get in the down in the dumps and get the blues thinking that, the whole world is just spinning while you're just alone on this little island of grief. Don't be alone on that island of grief. Let us inspire you. Let us bring you joy during this time, and let us help you. Let us reach out. Let us be a part of your world. And we don't have all the answers, but we do know who has all the answers. And we're thankful that we've had the experiences that we've had, whether they've been positive or negative. We're glad that we've had the journey that we have had, because I feel like it's given us a testimony to then now share with other people, and that maybe just a little part of our story will help you, and it'll encourage you, and it'll give you the strength that you need to get through this rough time in your life. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Hopefully you don't give it a thumbs down, because I really do want you to enjoy it. But anyway, if you want to stay in touch with us and you want to keep up with our videos that we post, then make sure you hit subscribe and stay tuned for more things coming. We're excited about what we are envisioning for our channel and for 2017. So hope you guys have a great day, and we will talk to you later. Bye.